Okay, let's dive in. Think about this. 1994, the New England Patriots are, well, kind of struggling. Losing money, bad stadium. Works. Then Robert Kraft steps in, buys them for $172 million, a record at the time. Now, jump to today, 2025, his whole operation, the Kraft Group. Forbes values it at $11.8 billion. Billion dollars.
Yeah.
That's not just winning a few Super Bowls. That's something else entirely. It looks like a blueprint, right? For building something huge, something resilient.
It really is a different way of looking at it, isn't it? People see the Patriots, they see the trophies, the dynasty, natural connection. But this deep dive, we're peeling back the layers. We're not really talking touchdowns today. We're looking at the financial architecture, the ownership strategy. We're calling it compound thinking. How do you make every asset, every decision build on the last one over like decades, not just next quarter?
Exactly. That's the mission here. Forget the win-loss record for a minute. We want to find those hidden moves, those specific steps he took. How did he turn what looked like a risky bet into this fortress of a business, playing the long game while everyone else focused on, the immediate score?
And if you really want to get that $11.8 billion number, you've got to understand the foundation wasn't laid on the turf. It was laid on dirt, literally.
Okay, let's unpack that. The first big move. Buying the team in 94 for $172 million.
Yeah.
The media hammered him for it, right? Team wasn't great. Foxborough Stadium was falling apart. Looked like a massive ego purchase, like buying an expensive toy.
Yeah, that was the narrative. A classic case of missing the real story. Everyone was focused on the team stats, the price tag. But they totally missed the quiet move Kraft had been making for years before that. Long before 94, he had been strategically, quietly securing control of the land around the stadium. Complex deals, different parcels.
The land. That's the first piece of the puzzle, the real leverage point. He wasn't just buying a football team that might win. He was buying territory, buying the right to control everything around it, the future.
Absolutely vital leverage. Think about it. Most NFL owners, they lease their stadium, or they're stuck dealing with City Hall for every little upgrade, every development plan. Huge headache. Kraft just sidestepped all that political friction. By owning land, he basically got the right to write his own rules for that whole area.
But hang on, why didn't everyone do that? Just buy up the land around the stadium. It sounds obvious now, but was it that easy?
Oh, definitely not easy. It took serious patience, a lot of capital up front, and navigating, tricky zoning laws, local politics, all without making big waves. Most people just don't have that kind of foresight or the cash or, frankly, the patience to pull that off over years. But that decision, securing that land, is what made everything else possible. It directly led to building Gillette Stadium, privately financed, $325 million back in 2002. And crucially, Patriot Place, that massive shopping, dining, entertainment complex right next door.
Right. And there's the compound thinking starting to click. The team becomes the emotional engine, draws the eyeballs, the global attention. Yeah. But the real estate is the bedrock. The land feeds the shops, the restaurants. That feeds the fan experience, which boosts the brand value.
Yeah.
Unlocks more capital. It's this whole ecosystem, right? Designed to make money all year round, not just on game days.
Exactly. That's the core lesson number one. Building an empire takes patience. It takes control of the territory. It means focusing on the next 30 years, not the next 30 days. Sometimes the biggest value is hidden away in, land deeds while everyone else is watching the game.
Okay, so he owned the dirt. Huge advantage. But still, owning a sports team is risky, right? What happens if they hit a long slump? Every owner faces that. How did he shield that massive real estate investment from the ups and downs of football? Which brings us to diversification, building for durability.
Yeah, let's shift gears to that. Durability through diversification. Because that $11.8 billion number, it's not just a sports team valuation. Not even close. It's really an industrial conglomerate valuation. Football's just one part of it. The most visible part, sure, but still just one piece.
Right. People forget, or maybe never knew, that Kraft was a big deal in business long before the NFL. Let's touch on those roots.
Yeah. His background is deep in paper and packaging. He took over Rand Whitney Group, founded International Forest Products back in 1972. We're talking huge global supply chains, manufacturing plants, trading commodities. That gave him decades of experience dealing with economic cycles, generating steady cash flow totally separate from football.
That context changes everything. He wasn't banking on winning Super Bowls just to pay the bills or fund his next big project. So the Kraft Group today, it's this web, isn't it? Sports, yes, but also manufacturing, private equity, real estate, entertainment.
And that creates what we call the shock-resistant model. The economic flywheel. Manufacturing, the paper side, brings in steady, pretty reliable income. It's diversified globally across industries. So when the NFL maybe faces some uncertainty, or even if the Patriots have a few down years, the profits from paper and packaging, they're stable. Stable enough to keep funding Patriot Place, keep developing the real estate, and cover any short-term losses from the team side.
So the boring part, the industrial manufacturing, actually acts as the financial shock absorber.
Pretty much. In finance, you worry about platform risk. For a team owner, that often means you're overly reliant on TV deals, league revenue sharing, things you don't fully control. If the broadcast market dips or the league changes rules, your whole model could be shaky. Kraft minimized that risk. His biggest cash cow, the paper business, had nothing to do with stadium attendance or TV ratings.
So it wasn't just owning different things. It was about designing them so they prop each other up, making the whole structure truly resilient.
Exactly. And once you have that solid financial base, then you can really leverage the intangible stuff like attention. Attention becomes currency.
Okay, let's talk about that. The Patriots under Kraft became more than just a team. They were a narrative machine. The Brady-Belichick era, 6 Super Bowls. They transformed the franchise into this global symbol of excellence, of dynasty. How did he manage that brand aspect differently?
It went way beyond typical PR. He seemed to approach branding almost like architecture. It was strategic, built-in layers. Success wasn't just enjoyed, it was meticulously documented and distributed. They invested heavily in high-quality video, cinematic-style content, those in-house documentaries. Plus, managing social media very deliberately to create those shareable, viral micro-moments.
This is more like a modern media company than just a football team owner.
Precisely. They were engineering emotional branding, making fans feel like they were part of something special, the Patriots way. That feeling, that culture of excellence. They managed to turn that emotion into a tangible billion-dollar asset. It's why the brand stays strong even when the team is rebuilding.
And that feeling, that strong brand, feeds right back into the economic flywheel we discussed, drives merch sales, boosts the value of media rights, and maybe most importantly, keeps people coming to Patriot Place. High-value traffic year-round.
When people connect emotionally with your brand, you get a multiplier effect that lasts.
Which leads us right into the next phase, financial engineering. Using that peak brand value to generate capital strategically.
You have to know when to monetize that attention, right? At the peak.
Okay, let's talk about that big move in 2025. Selling an 8% minority stake in the Patriots made headlines.
That one move, a total masterclass in financial strategy. Selling just 8%, reportedly at a valuation around $9 billion. That brought in over $720 million in cash. Instantly. But here's the crucial part for anyone listening. He did it without giving up any control. He kept his majority ownership, kept final decision-making power.
Why is keeping that control, that 92%, so vital in the long run?
Oh, it's straight out of the private equity playbook. You bring in minority partners when your valuation is sky high, inject massive capital. But you retain full control over the strategy. If you sell a majority stake, suddenly you have to answer to new owners, maybe people with shorter-term goals. By staying in charge, Kraft makes sure the next 30 years that long-term compound thinking stays his vision.
So that $720 million isn't just sitting in an account, it's fuel. It can go right back into upgrading the stadium, investing in new tech, funding the next big real estate play.
And notice the timing. He waited until the Patriots were global icons. 6 rings, peak legacy value. This wasn't a desperate move for cash, it was strategic scaling, turning some of that hard-earned equity into immediate momentum right when the market sentiment was highest. Real ownership isn't just holding on tight, it's about controlling the direction and knowing when to let capital flow in to accelerate your long-term game.
Okay, but no empire, no matter how well built, avoid storms forever, criticism, scandals, they happen. Let's talk about the final piece, resilience, playing the infinite game. What happens when things go wrong?
And things have gone wrong. Kraft's faced some major turbulence. You look back at the 2007 Spygate scandal, huge media firestorm, and then more recently, that highly public or personal legal situation in 2019. Charges were eventually dropped, but the negative attention was intense, global. For a lot of organizations, that kind of heat can make the whole structure wobble.
So what was the playbook for getting through those moments? How did the empire survive, even keep growing?
Well, instead of getting drawn into messy public fights or panicking, the approach seemed to be calculated silence. Absorption, tight control over legal communications, letting the systems he'd built, the strong business operations, just absorb the shockwaves.
But just absorbing isn't enough, is it?
Yeah.
You have to somehow shift the narrative back.
Exactly, and that's where the pivot happened. He very effectively recentered the public focus. Big philanthropic pushes millions towards criminal justice reform, education initiatives, and crucially, just continuing the relentless business growth, showing forward momentum. The reputation survival play, essentially, was reminding everyone that the Kraft Group, the brand, stood for something bigger, more durable than one bad headline. He built such deep, valuable infrastructure that these crises, while damaging, couldn't actually topple the core structure.
That really speaks to the infinite game mindset, doesn't it? Building systems so strong they can outlast any single player, even a superstar. Maybe the biggest test was Tom Brady leaving in 2020. Everyone predicted the dynasty would just collapse. But Kraft seemed focused on just rebuilding the system?
He plays a long game, always has. It's about outlasting eras, not just winning within them. And you see that focus on permanence really cemented in the succession planning. His son, Jonathan Kraft, has been deeply involved for years, groomed as team president, ensuring that vision carries on. Real legacy isn't about splashy moves. It's about building that unshakable foundation, proving stability decade after decade.
So when we step back and look at this whole blueprint, what's the big takeaway for someone listening? Kraft's $11.8 billion empire. It feels like a masterclass in that compound thinking, strategic patience, sometimes strategic silence, and just relentless consistency. He wasn't chasing quick wins. He was thinking decades out, building these interconnected business ecosystems designed to sustain themselves.
Yeah, the hidden lesson seems to be that the real empire builders often work quietly, consolidating assets, securing leverage before the spotlight hits. They build for resilience first. They orchestrate things for the long haul. Attention is a tool they use strategically, maybe later in the game, not the foundation itself.
So the message seems clear. If you're trying to build something substantial, something that lasts, think long and control the territory, the fundamentals right.
Which brings us right to our final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Based on that exact idea, patient, long-term building, what's the one quiet move you could make today? Not the flashy thing, but the smart, foundational decision. Securing some kind of leverage, maybe mitigating a risk way down the road. What's the one thing your future self, 30 years from now, will look back and thank you for doing today?
Keep building. Keep thinking long. Often the most powerful moves really are the quietest ones.